The long history of cannabis, from ancient medicine to modern culture, cannabis. Today it's often surrounded by controversy, but its story is much older than most people realize. Stretching back thousands of years, cannabis has been used by empires, healers, warriors, and everyday people across every continent. This is the long, fascinating journey of cannabis through human history. Ancient beginnings. The first known use of cannabis dates back to ancient Asia, around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. Archaeologists have discovered hemp fibers in ancient Chinese pottery, suggesting that early civilizations used the plant to weave clothes, create ropes, and even make early forms of paper. But it wasn't just a material. Ancient Chinese medical texts, like the Shenong Benkao Jing, describe cannabis as a healing herb used to relieve pain, inflammation, and even forgetfulness. By 2000 BCE, cannabis had spread to India, where it took on spiritual and religious significance. The ancient Indian text, Atharva Veda, refers to cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants. It was said to be a source of happiness, a liberator, and a gift from the gods. Cannabis was used in religious rituals, mixed into drinks like bhang, and praised for its ability to bring about transcendence and peace. Cannabis. Across the ancient world. From India, cannabis traveled westward. In the Middle East, it was used by the ancient Scythians, fierce horse-riding warriors, who burned cannabis seeds in ritual ceremonies. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about Scythians inhaling the vapors to cleanse themselves spiritually. In Egypt, traces of cannabis pollen were found on the mummy of Ramses II. Ancient Egyptians may have used it to treat inflammation and glaucoma. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, cannabis was recognized for its medical benefits. Greek doctors prescribed it for earaches, inflammation, and edema. Cannabis in the Islamic world. As the Islamic Empire rose, cannabis took on new roles. Alcohol was forbidden under Islamic law, but cannabis was not. Hashish, a concentrated form of cannabis, became popular throughout the Middle East and North Africa. During the Middle Ages, Islamic scholars wrote extensively about the plant's medicinal properties. However, not everyone approved. Some rulers attempted to ban cannabis use, viewing it as a threat to public order. Yet, despite repeated bans, cannabis remained deeply woven into the culture of the region. The New World and colonial era. In the 1500s and 1600s, European explorers carried cannabis seeds across the oceans. Hemp was grown in colonial America, not for getting high, but for practical purposes: rope, sails, and clothing. Even George Washington, the first U.S. president, grew hemp on his farm. Back then, cannabis was considered an essential crop. It helped build ships, furnish homes, and fuel the early economies of the New World. 19th and early 20th century cannabis as medicine. By the 1800s, Western medicine caught on. Doctors in Britain and America used cannabis extracts to treat a wide variety of illnesses, from migraines and insomnia to stomach issues and epilepsy. It was sold openly in pharmacies, often labeled simply as Indian hemp. But around the early 20th century, things changed. A wave of anti-immigrant sentiment in the United States associated cannabis with Mexican laborers and African-American jazz musicians. Racist propaganda portrayed cannabis as a dangerous drug that led to violence and insanity, a stark contrast to its earlier image as a healing plant. This moral panic led to the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, effectively criminalizing cannabis in the U.S. for the first time. Other countries soon followed. The war on drugs. In the 1970s, under President Richard Nixon, the United States declared a war on drugs. Cannabis was classified as a Schedule Y drug, alongside heroin and LSD, meaning it was considered to have no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Decades of stigma followed. Millions of people were arrested for minor cannabis offenses, and research into its potential benefits was stifled. The modern cannabis renaissance. But the story wasn't over. In the 1990s, attitudes began to shift again. California became the first U.S. state to legalize medical marijuana in 1996. Patients suffering from chronic pain, cancer, and AIDS found relief in a plant that had been demonized for generations. Today, cannabis is fully legalized for recreational use in dozens of countries and U.S. states. Scientists are studying its potential to treat anxiety, PTSD, epilepsy, and many other conditions. The global cannabis industry is booming, and the plant's ancient legacy is being rediscovered by a new generation. Conclusion: from ancient rituals to modern medicine, from rope to recreation, the history of cannabis is the story of humanity itself. A story of survival, adaptation, misunderstanding, and rediscovery. As we move into the future, cannabis continues to evolve, and its long journey reminds us that sometimes the oldest plants still have the most to teach.